Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this very episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about a British band that formed 40 years ago. It's really hard to believe that. And according to the British press back then, this band was at loggerheads with Duran Duran. They were mortal enemies. It was as if the teenagers had to choose between Duran Duran and this band, and I am talking about Spandau Ballet. Formed in 1980, Tony Hadley on vocals, Gary Kemp on guitar, his brother Martin Kemp on bass, John Keeble on drums, and Steve Norman on saxophone. They came out at the height of the New Romantic movement, along with Duran Duran and Visage and Ultravox, and I was just drawn to all of them because their mixture of pop and electronics and funk and soul. Each band's sound was definitely unique. They were all going for the same thing, but they all sounded different. Now, the very first time I heard Spandau Ballet was their debut album from 1981. It is called Journeys to Glory, and this is the expanded edition. Of course, to cut a long story short is on this, but also some other great singles like Muscle Bound and The Freeze. And you can see there, this is the expanded edition with loads of bonus material. It was great. It was funky. But there's one thing about Spandau Ballet that they don't get credit for, very much like Adam Ant, is that every album was different. They just gradual movements into a different direction. And so when they came out with their second album in 1982, it was called Diamond. And this had that funky sound to it, but it also had a more pop sound, a more soul sound, moving away from funk, moving towards soul. And Tony Hadley's vocals, they weren't a bellow. They were becoming more smooth, more of a crooner type vocalist, which he would perfect on the next album, of course. But Diamond, this has Chant Number 1, which is a big single for them, Instinction, Paint Me Down, and She Loved Like Diamond. Great album. This is the expanded edition. Fine album. It still had those dance grooves, those funky grooves, electronics, great vocals, great songwriting. Gary Kemp, a great songwriter. People really need to realize that he just wrote some amazing songs. Then in 1983, one of my favorite albums of the 80s, and it's probably in my top 100 favorite albums of all time, the silky, smooth soul pop of True. True remains probably my favorite song of all time. Everything about that song, especially the last 3 minutes, all the vocals going on at the same time, it's just amazing. Such an incredible album. Sure, I'm not a fan of the song Code of Love, and it's usually the song that I skip off of this album, but everything else here is just fab beyond recognition. I mean, Pleasure is great. Communication, Gold, Lifeline, Heaven is a Secret, Foundation, and of course the song True. Now let me tell you about the song True, people. The version that you've been hearing on the radio is not the full version. The album version is 1 minute longer, and I wish it was 7 minutes longer, I'll tell you that much. But those extra 60 seconds really make it for me. It's actually a better song on the album version as opposed to the single version. If you go back and listen to it, you may not notice that much of a difference, but I do every single friggin' day because I love it so much. So True, Spandau Ballet came out in 1983. This is the expanded edition, definitely worth your while. As a matter of fact, what I want to do is I want to point out something to you. I've got the True autograph by all 5 members up there on my wall. Of course, in my world, it was never Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet. It was always Spandau Ballet, get out of here, Duran. But that's just me. Anyway, 1984, they changed their sound a little bit. They still kept that soulful sound, but they added more guitar. So it was moving away from the funk, moving away from the soul, had a rockier edge. I would say maybe more pop. Parade, an absolutely great album. Again, Only When You Leave is on this album. Highly strung, I'll Fly For You, always in the back of my mind, Round and Round. This is, of course, the expanded edition with bonus tracks. Took another 2 years, and of course, they changed their course a little bit more. This is a little more rocky, and it is the album Through the Barricades. This album did nothing in the States, or did very little in the States, but it was huge. Like the song Through the Barricades, it's just this gorgeous, wonderful, I mean, Tony Hadley's voice. I know that Gary Kemp wrote most of the songs, but Hadley was able to connect to what Gary Kemp was trying to say, and it just came out beautifully. This also has a great ballad that a lot of people don't realize called How Many Lies, which is great. It's also got a couple rockers like Cross the Line and Fight for Ourselves. But yeah, this is the expanded edition, of course. Look, most everything I like. If there's an expanded edition, I own it. In 1989, out comes the album Heart Like a Sky. There is no expanded edition to this, as far as I know. This is not that successful of an album. It's got some great songs on it. There's this beautiful song called Empty Spaces, and it's but they're trying too much. They're going in too many different directions, and it seems like maybe the band were not united like they used to be before. But still a very, very fine addition to your collection. Be Free With Your Love, Crashed Into Love, Raw, and of course, like I said, Empty Spaces. And that Spandau Ballet, Heart Like a Sky. And like I said, it didn't sound like they were in unison, and maybe that was the case because they broke up after that. And I know there were different sides suing each other for this and that, for use of the name, whatever. I don't want to go into that because I want to concentrate on just how great the music is and how great these five guys are together. Now, Tony Hadley went out and recorded solo albums, which were fine, and Gary Kemp had one or two albums, and Martin and Gary went into acting, and all this stuff was going on. And then 20 years after they split up, all five members of the band reunited, and they did a tour, and they recorded an album called Once More, which was basically reworkings of some of their older songs, like acoustic reworkings, more intimate. But I will tell you, there's two songs in this album that were new. They were the title track, Once More, which is incredible, and then Love Is All, which is the last track on there, is incredible. And the rest of this is all just like re-recordings and reworkings, reimagining some of their old hits. And then there was a documentary that came out on Spandau Ballet, and a few years later, they actually toured America, and I got to see them twice, which I was very, very happy to do. And of course, I was able to meet the band, and I told Gary Kemp why the song True was my favorite song of all time. I'm sure he thought to himself, like, oh God, not another one of these. God, where's security when you need them? Anyway, so they did the tour, and they released this album, which is called The Story, the very best of Spandau Ballet, and it has 3 brand new recordings bringing back that classic Spandau Ballet sound. The 3 new songs are This Is the Love, Steel, and Soul Boy, and all of them are fantastic. So this not only has all those hits that you love and you want to rub in your tummy, but also 3 new songs. So it's really, really, really great. And then, oh my God, Tony Hadley left. The band did try to continue a little bit, maybe bring in a different vocalist for some live shows, but the chemistry just wasn't there. So they sort of knocked it in the head and said goodbye, Spandau Ballet, which is really sad. I wish there was something that I could do. Like, look, I've got a $10 bill. I've got 3 ones, a couple quarters, a couple dimes, a couple pennies. If that'll get Spandau Ballet back together, then I'm willing to give that up. But now that they're celebrating their 40th anniversary, no, they're not getting back together. But they did release this wonderful 3 CD collection called 40 Years, The Greatest Hits. It does cover all the singles, and it does include all 3 new songs from this. So if you don't have this, but you want those 3 new songs, they're here. And it also has a disc of remixes and bonus tracks. And the special surprise here, the very last song on CD 2 is a cover version of the Simon & Garfunkel song. It was produced by Michael Kamen, and it was supposed to be on a Greatest Hits album that was supposed to come out that Christmas in 1990, but that never happened. So that is actually the last official Spandau Ballet recording before they split up, but it was never released until just like December of 2020. So 30 years after it was recorded, it was finally released. But you can get just some of the most amazing killer new romantic and soul pop and blue-eyed soul and rock and pop. It's all here. And then you'll notice the progression of the band. Every album, Gary Kemp was doing something different with his guitar or something different with the sound of the band. It's like he said, this is our funk album. And then they put out Journeys to Glory. And then, this will be our transition album. And then they put out Diamond. And, let's do a Blue-Eyed Soul album. And then they put out True. It's really incredible to hear their growth in between each album. Fantastic. But if you don't want to stock up on that, definitely check out 40 Years. This is a 3 CD set. Just came out in December of 2020. The Greatest Hits, Spandau Ballet. But pretty much every song that you can imagine that got played on the radio or was a single is contained in this. It's a wonderful collection. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for letting me chat about Spandau Ballet. I really appreciate you hanging out. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.